So what I want to do today is just take a walk around the food plot, show you the entire thing, what all I have planted and what I did plant this year. So I'll take you around. We'll start here with the clover. This is Ladino clover I planted in the spring, which was tough to do, especially whenever the drought hit this summer. But it finally took off. Here it is, September 8th, I think, is today. We put some triple 10 on it. That was right before a good rain, and we've had decent rain since then. We put 2,4-DB and clethodim in here to take care of the weeds. I mowed it one time and it looks pretty good. There's some grass here and there yet. You can see some here, but that can all wait until next year. It's probably 6 inches or so, maybe even a little taller in some places. The deer, they were in here every night, and now that we opened up the beans, they've been in the beans and kind of letting this go for a little bit. So it had some time to rebound. So over here is what I have right down through the center here is sorghum sudan grass hybrid. And I used it because I didn't have anything else at the time. I'll never use it again. I'll do some pre-planting, some better planting next year, but it's just too flimsy and it already laid down in places, but it's doing all right. So that's my divider. I just ran it right down through the middle of the plot. And I also ran it around the outside of the food plot, but being that close to the woods and the drip line and shade and everything, it didn't do all that well. But this here is a 1/2 acre of turnips. I planted it in the spring with oats, and my idea was to come in here, and which was what I did. I came in here in July, and the end of July, planted turnips in here. And then I waited, and this is where I messed up. I waited until a week or so before dove season, and then I came in here with the brush hog and nipped the tops, brush hogged the tops of the oats off. Well, there's tons of grass in here. So what I should have done was sprayed it, and I didn't. I should have sprayed it the same time I spread these seeds, but I was hoping that the oats, because some of the oats were still green, so I wanted to give them some more time. And that's where I messed up, because now, I mean, it's a mess. And I could come in here and spray something, some clethodim to kill the grasses, but at this point, it just is what it is. So anyhow, this here, like I said, is a 1/2 acre, and we'll come on down here, shut this fence off. So this fence here, we put in, I would say a month or so after we planted the soybeans. The deer were just wiping them out. We wouldn't have anything, but that's what it would look like, dirt. But we put this fence up and it saved everything. But we'll talk more about that in a second. This here is where I had planted buckwheat originally. This here is a 1/2 acre. I tried to keep these at a 1/2 acre or 1 acre. That way my seed rate was easier to figure out. We planted buckwheat in here. This was open as well, along with the oats. So the deer hammered the buckwheat. They mowed it right down to the ground. So in July, Kurt and I came in here and planted soybeans. We had some soybeans left over. Kurt bought a 2-row planter. We wanted to test it out, and it worked out great. I then came in here end of July, and I broadcasted Brassicas in between, just over the entire field. I just walked in here and overseeded, and they're turning out pretty good. Some of these are decently sized that have the space, which is a big deal. You can already see some of the turnips starting to grow. I found one in here that was, geez, it was the size of a golf ball, but look at this one. Whoops, I just broke that one. I mean, that one there's a decent size. And it's first part of September. We haven't had a frost yet, but we did have a morning where there was ice on my windshield. So it gets cool here. We're in Western Pennsylvania, zone 5. Like central Ohio last night, they had a frost advisory. So it's coming. You can see the brassicas and whatnot. I seeded it, and then the same day we got rain, but it was like a golly washer. So you can see it all laying down here in these lower areas. You can't see low areas on camera, but that's like because of my plowing, that is a low area. So all the seeds wash down in there. So, all right, moving along quick here. That's enough of the soybeans. You can see some radishes here. I think it's the daikon. So here's my exclusion cage. I don't know what happened here. Something ran into it. I don't know if a deer ran into it or what. I don't remember hitting it when I was planting it. But my cage has been hit. The exclusion cage, this was put in when I planted the buckwheat in the spring. So exclusion cages are very important to have. If not, you wouldn't know. If you didn't have them, you wouldn't even know if your seed was growing or not. I learned that with my soybeans when I planted the soybeans in the spring. All right, so moving along quickly here. This was the wet spot. This was a wet spot all year long. And finally in July, we were able to come in here and plow it up, disc it, and we planted buckwheat. And the buckwheat was amazing because we had it fenced in. So it grew, and it looked like a field of snow when it was flowering. The bees loved it. And then I came in here and brush hogged it right before dove season, and hardly had any doves come in. I even threw my decoys out here to try to help lure them in, which did work opening day. I sat out here. But after I brush hogged it, we had a couple red-tailed hawks come in here, and they've been in here steady, so the doves have not. But we'll plow and disc this up here, and we're gonna put wheat and rye, wheat and rye in here. This here was a sunflower field. This is a half an acre, and it failed because it was my bad. I didn't put any pre-emergence up in the ground, and it ended up being solid ragweed. But I plowed it, disked it, and planted oats and crimson clover. That will be next week's video, because I want to let it germinate before I just post a video of me scattering seed on the ground without any follow-up like I see on everybody else's channel, as they're trying to promote some seed company, trying to get you to buy their seed, and then they don't even show it coming. So this here is the wildlife sorghum. You can see these coming ahead very nicely. You can see it out across there. There's some grasses in here. The only thing I did with this, which is about the only thing I could do, was spray it with 2,4-DB at one point in the summer, which probably saved it, because there was a ton of ragweed and goldenrod in here. This field is the first time this field has been plowed and farmed in quite a few years, several years. So we've done a lot of work to it. We had to add a bunch of lime, 22 tons of lime, decent amount of fertilizer. And moving on here, let's see how this is all laid down. We had a pretty heavy rain and some storms a couple days ago, and now it's laid down, and I think that's what it's gonna be now. This here is 0.8 of an acre of field corn, Roundup ready field corn. I had to Roundup ready everything if I could, because like I said, this field hasn't been touched in years, so there's tons of seeds everywhere. But it's growing very well. I didn't use a planter. I just came in here and broadcasted it by hand. And there are a lot with 2 ears. The one when I was sitting here for dove season, and the one had 3, and I can't find it because I thought I was tucked in right here somewhere. But either way, the corn's growing very well. I added the fence before it was not fenced in, but I put the fence around it just to try to save it. The deer density here, it's just through the roof. There's so many deer here. So down here, this is the soybean field. So I had my fence originally come up here. This here was all soybeans. It was planted just like this. The rest of it, it curved out through here. 0 soybeans in here. But like I said, I had the fence here. It went down this way and then over, and then one night I decided to move the fence and make sure and take it around the corn as well, because I didn't want the corn wiped out. So I did that, which was a lot of work. I don't recommend doing that by yourself. Putting the fence up by yourself would be fine, but making adjustments like that, I put some miles on. Roundup Ready soybeans, you can see where I missed right there and right there spraying. That's solid ragweed, and that's what the entire plot would look like if I didn't use Roundup Ready soybeans. The deer do get through that fence. It still saves your plot. I'm sure anyone who uses a fence like this, my brother does in Texas and East Texas, and I mean, I have an exclusion cage. You can't see it. You can just see the white top of the T-post right there. And the soybeans are up that high. It's a 5-foot T-post, so it's 4 feet. That's how tall the soybeans are right there in the center. I pulled one of these out last week. I counted 69 pods on one plant. I think they're doing pretty good. You can see where the deer jump over they do get over the fence, like I said, and you can see where they're being nipped off. But hopefully that doesn't affect the pod production. The pods seem to be doing all right. They're starting to widen out now. Before they were just like a little blade, like a hockey stick. Now they're fattening up, which is nice. So that's it. That's the plot. I think I covered everything. A ton of work, a whole lot of work, but anybody can do it as long as you decide to climb off the couch for a little while. That's all. It just takes a bunch of work, and anybody can do it, regardless of, you don't need all this high-end equipment or anything like that. This here was broadcasted and disked in. Same with the soybeans. Everything here was broadcasted and disked in until we got that planter when we tested out the beans. And Kurt picked up a grain drill, an old grain drill, and I used that to plant the oats. And we all know you don't need to use anything like that, but I like the farming aspect just as much as the whole food plotting part of things. I like driving the tractor, running the tractor. Thing's 60 some years old, 64 years old, and it does just fine. I have videos on everything that you have seen. If you want to see one specific, like the corn or the beans, you can go. Same with the sorghum, spraying. The only thing I didn't do a video on was that screening. I was waiting for it to get tall because I hate making a video without some kind of a result. And I just never got to it. It's a lot of work when you have 8 different food plots in here. If it was just a solid stand of beans or corn or clover, it'd be easier. Next week, I'll show you planting that. And then as soon as this dries up, this has been a wet spot all year. And as soon as it dries up enough, we had 1.5 inches of rain yesterday. We'll come in here and plow this and disc it. And because I just can't, look at how thick this grass is in here. So I'm not gonna even attempt to plant anything in here with the grass that thick. And I don't feel like spraying. That's what you could do. You could come in here, broadcast your rye or your wheat, and then spray with glyphosate and walk away. And as long as you do it right before timely rain and the birds don't eat it all, you'll be just fine. But like I said, I like running the tractor. I like the farming aspect, and this will be the last I get to do it this year. So I need to enjoy it while I can. Moving forward next year, I think we're gonna get a clear field variety of sunflowers, and that will allow us to be able to spray after they emerge. And then the other thing is, this here sorghum has a lot of foxtail and a couple other weeds or grasses in here. And I'd like to do something about that because that's pretty thick with the grass. You can see it. So I want to see what I can do about pre-emergence for that. Just because he can't, like I said, he can spray clethodim, but it'll kill the sorghum because sorghum is a grass, just like corn. What else? Yeah, that's it. Alrighty, thanks for watching.